The first thing we need to talk about is what I like to call the magical mystery energy molecule, which is also called ATP. That's the scientific term. So we need energy in our cells to build new molecules. We call it cellular processes or cellular functions, but build new molecules, contract muscles, carry out active transport, get things to where they need to be. Without this energy, living things couldn't live. And the magical mystery energy molecule that I like to call it, like I said, is called ATP, way easier to say than adenosine triphosphate. There are 3 parts to ATP. There's a 5-carbon sugar called ribose, adenine, which if you remember from DNA, adenine is the A in the base pairing. So there's that part. So adenine and ribose, which are very similar. ATP is considered a nucleic acid because of this. So ATP is a nucleic acid, incidentally. So we have the sugar, we have the base, and just like DNA and RNA, we have phosphate. In this case, 3 phosphates, which is why it's called triphosphate. ADP is adenosine diphosphate. There are 2 phosphate groups there instead of 3. It contains some energy, but not as much as ATP. When a cell has energy available, it can store small amounts of it by adding phosphate groups to ADP and produces ATP. So ATP is stored energy. ADP is like a rechargeable battery that powers the machinery of the cell. So in order to release the energy stored in ATP, breaking off that 3rd phosphate group is the way it's done. Energy is released. So this, because cells can add or subtract phosphate groups, this is the way that energy storage and release happens. One of the ways that cells use energy of ATP is active transport. We talked about active transport way back with sodium-potassium pumps. That was one of the examples we gave that's found in cell membrane. The sodium-potassium pump is super important in nerve cells and getting those neurons firing, those information to and from the central nervous system, to and from the muscles, to and from the sense organs. ATP also powers movement. Again, contracting muscles, powering the movement of cilia and flagella in unicellular organisms. ATP powers protein synthesis, responds to chemical signals at the cell surface. It's not a good molecule for storing large amounts of energy over the long term. So there's only a small supply of ATP that's kept in the body on hand. ATP is made on an as-needed basis by using the energy in foods like glucose. Like I say all the time, living things are lazy. They're not going to make more ATP than is necessary. It's created on an as-needed basis. We have 2 different types of organisms, 2 main different types of organisms. Heterotrophs obtain food by consuming other living things in order to make ATP. So heterotrophs can eat plants, they can eat animals, they can eat decomposing organisms. Organisms that make their own food are called autotrophs. The prefix auto means by oneself. So autotrophs can make their own food. Most common examples are plants, but algae and some bacteria also can use light energy from the sun to produce food. This is called photosynthesis.